just start off by asking you straight away, what is Delta Plus variant? Why is it a variant that we need to be more worried about as compared to the Delta variant that was already prevalent in India?
Now, what has happened with Delta Plus is that in the Delta background, a new mutation has come up. Now, if this was any mutation at random, we would not be worried so much. But this particular mutation, which is called K417N, is a mutation that was earlier seen in the beta variant, which first came up in South Africa. And we know from studies on various vaccine trials as well as otherwise that vaccines have not shown very good efficacy in trials in South Africa at the time when the beta variant was circulating there. So just because this particular mutation was part of the beta variant and now it has come in the delta variant, that's a matter of concern. So you can sort of think of it as two variants of concern coming together. Now, whether the effect of this is going to be neutral, meaning no increase in transmissibility, no further increase in immune evasion, or whether the effect is going to be additive, or whether the effect is going to be more than the sum of parts, is something that we don't know yet. And although calling something a variant of interest or a variant of concern, that's a nomenclature that's usually decided on a global level by WHO. But I think since this mutation has come up in something that was already a variant of concern, it is logical to call it also as a variant of concern.
Just talk to us a little bit about how the current vaccines are behaving against Delta variant and how concerning is this new emergence?
Yeah, so the way you look at this is two ways. One is you conduct laboratory tests to find out if the serum samples from people who have received the vaccine, either Covishield or Covaxin, still neutralize the virus in a laboratory dish. And some of those experiments have been conducted, and they show that there is a bit of a reduced neutralization of the Delta variant with both vaccines. But a more important analysis is the real world population analysis, what's happening in the population. And there are two studies from India that I am aware of, but I believe they have not categorized it based on Covishield or Covaxin. But we can assume that the effects are largely because of Covishield, simply because Covishield has been deployed about 90% in the country. And those real world data show that while the effectiveness of a single dose is still low, somewhere around 40 to 50%. With two doses, it goes up to about 60 to 70% if you are talking about symptomatic infection. But if you're talking about severe disease, if you're talking about hospitalization, then the efficacy is pretty good of both single dose as well as, of course, increased with two doses. So the basic point is that with the new variants, people would get infected a little more, but they are still being protected against severe disease. And I think that's a very good outcome. Similarly, Public Health England has done studies with both Pfizer vaccine as well as the AstraZeneca vaccine, and their results also show what we see in India.
Dr. Jamil, I want to ask you this question. I know it's been debated a lot, but the dosage increase that was done with Covishield, which was to bring it to 12 to 16 weeks. Now, should that dosage gap and interval be revisited in light of the newer variants that are spreading in certain states? Do we need to get more targeted policies in place for these areas?
Look, any policy has to be driven by evidence, and this outbreak is moving so quickly that the evidence is accumulating, and often what we know today becomes irrelevant tomorrow. So policy must reflect that. Now, if everything was fine, if there was plenty of vaccine supply coming through, then 6 to 8 weeks would have been ideal. But the question really is, if enough vaccine doses are not coming through, what strategy should you use? Should you give some partial protection to a large group, fraction of the population, or should you give the best protection to a small fraction of the population? And from a public health perspective, and now with data coming out which shows that Covishield is giving at least 70% protection with a single dose against severe disease, I think the current policy is fine to have extended the dose to 12 to 16 weeks. But I'm sure as more supplies come through, this will get reduced.
There's been this constant criticism that the number of samples we've sequenced are too few to give us a bigger picture of the spread of any variant. I wanted your thoughts on that, and whether we need to involve more labs, more private labs to come in and assist INSACOG in this endeavor.
Yeah, so you can always look at any problem as glass half full or half empty. And I have been associated with INSACOG, so I know a bit more than possibly many others. So by December 2020, India's sequencing rate was only 0.05%. Out of roughly 10 million confirmed cases, we had roughly 5,000 sequences. Since INSACOG, the first 10 labs came together, sequencing started in a more coordinated manner. And more importantly, it is not important just to have the sequence, but to also connect that sequence to epidemiology so that you can make a public health decision based on the sequence. So at this time, if you look at the numbers, at one point we were sequencing around 1%, but when the second wave hit, uh, numbers went to 200,000, 400,000 per day. It was not possible to sequence at a rate of even 1%, forget 5%, which was the vision. But I think INSACOG labs have done well to sequence strategically. And remember, after all, it was that sequencing that discovered this Delta plus variant. So we're now sequencing cumulatively at about 0.1%. So about twice as what we were sequencing late last year. INSACOG also includes 17 or 18 other labs now. So it's now a consortium made of 28 labs. Now the 10 labs, the original 10 labs are the main labs which have more sequencing capacity. But I think it's a good decision to include some of the other labs where in some cases the capacity may not be high, but you're actually mentoring them for the future. So yes, in an ideal world, we should be sequencing 5%, but we don't live in an ideal world. There is a lack of capacity in terms of how many sequences you can generate on a daily basis. Sequencing is an expensive exercise. It's not cheap. So it's a matter of resources. And remember, the whole world is using reagents from the same sources. So there is also, some supply issues of reagents. But I think what's happening now is fine. Some of the new variants, the Delta Plus variant, may not even need sequencing to find out. You may find it out simply based on genotyping analysis, which is not as involved as sequencing. And in fact, Public Health England is doing just that. They have a genotyping assay and they are using that. That's very rapid. So I think we should do this mix and match. So yeah, what we're doing is fine at the moment.
In the end, I just wanted to check with you. I mean, there's obviously some criticism of the government not acting fast enough when information about Delta variant was shared in February, March, and the numbers were going up. This time, you do see some action, and then there's this conversation around how this variant could possibly lead to a third wave. Do you see a repeat of something like what happened back then happening now, or do you think that now the steps that are being taken seriously?
No. I think serious steps are being taken, and there are press releases regularly informing us about what is happening. So we all learn from our mistakes, and we all make mistakes, but we should learn from our mistakes. And I think it's a very positive development that we are on it in a very proactive manner.
And do you think this conversation around Delta Plus possibly leading to third wave is too premature?
Well, it's very hard to say. Delta Plus could fuel a third wave, sort of a third wave, only if it turns out to be far more infectious than Delta, which is circulating in the community now. And from the signatures in this virus, theoretically, I don't see that happening. But then we'll have to keep a watch on it and see how it moves in the population. So that's important.
Our COVID ground reports cost us about 7.5 lakh every month. You can help our reporting from the ground. Go to thequint.com, click Support the Quint tab, choose a plan and pay.